We are speaking with a singer Doogie White. Doogie, of course, has recently joined Alcatraz, and he has, of course, re-released As Yet Untitled, a 2 CD reissue of his great album from about a decade ago. And as we say in Montreal, bonjour, Doogie. How are you?
I am very well, thank you very much.
Yeah, nice to speak to you again. I love, and I've told you this before. I love the way you handle the UFO songs. Phil is Phil, and I love what Phil does. But when it's not Phil singing, you're my guy. You're the backup. You're the guy I
Really?
love on the. Yeah, I really do. I really think that you give it an authenticity, and when you're out there with Schenker and you're singing those songs, like on this compilation or on this CD, you have "Too Hot to Handle." I think it sounds great.
Thank you
It's
very much.
the way it's supposed to sound. So,
You see,
you know,
I always thought that Phil was a bit like Frank Sinatra, in that it it's in between the notes. I mean, I could never find what he did,
yeah.
and interestingly that you mentioned this, um, because Too Hot to Handle in those songs, I had to learn them from someone else, but not Phil, because no one can do what Phil does, right? Phil's unique in the same way that Ozzy's unique, and Robert Plant to some extent as well. Um, and I just have to try and find a way to sing it that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. And you know what? There's a lot of those singers that you just can't duplicate. And being from the 80s hard rock, I mean, you cannot duplicate a Stephen Pearcy vocal. You cannot duplicate a Jack Russell vocal. That's it. The,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's the same with
just
Phil.
how they are. I mean, everybody has the sort of background that they fall on. If you listen to Paul Rogers, and then you will hear David Coverdale in there, or vice versa. If you listen to Stevie Wonder, you hear Glenn Hughes in there. If you listen to Lou Gramm, you'll find Joe Lynn Turner in there. And an awful lot of singers these days, um, of the younger generation, who are much younger than me, they are combining Coverdale and Dio together to bring their own sound.
Yeah.
And I think, I did that as well. I went and found guys that I could sing alongside. And there was no point in me listening to Judas Priest or Rush, because I never had a voice like that.
Yeah.
I was never going to be able to do that. So I found guys that I could sing along with, and who I could take bits from, and then you just throw it in a muddle and it comes out as me.
Well,
So
listen, it worked. Now, talk to me about this As Yet Untitled reissue. You've got two bonus tracks on there, plus a bonus CD, but you've
yeah.
got Dishing the Dirt and Small Town Saturday Night. Were they recorded at the time, or are these two new songs you just did recently and say, okay, I'm going to add these? What's the story on those?
Well, they were. I always like to over record, because you never know when you're putting the album together, how it's going to sit, right? And so if you only record 10 or 11 songs, that's it. But I like to leave myself um, a bit of give and take, so you can say, well, actually, that doesn't work in the context there. And it's nice that you mentioned Small Town Saturday Night, because that was, I love the song. It's so beautiful, and it takes me back to when I wrote it with Alex Dixon. I was thinking about the rock clubs that I used to go to in Scotland, and but it just didn't fit. It was a bit. If you want an analogy, and for your listeners to take, it was a bit like When a Blind Man Cries, from Purple. It never made the album, but it was so glorious it could stand alone on its own. And I think the same is there with Small Town Saturday Night. Um, Dish in the Dirt, I wrote with Mick Tucker. Those two songs I wrote with Mick ended up getting me the gig with Tank for two albums, War Machine and War Nation. But I had to leave it off, just because I'd been working with people and they had a song on the album, and it just felt unfair that they'd worked so hard on the record and they didn't actually have a song on it. It was originally going to be called Good to Be Bad, but then I think Whitesnake released an album called Good to Be Bad, so that kind of stuffed that. So
kind of ruined the plans a bit.
Well, that's Dish in the Dirt, and I think that might have been. I think maybe I nicked that title from. That might have been the Motley Crue album, The Dirt, and I just thought, Dish in the Dirt. Let's do that. You know.
So I'm checking my phone here because there are 2 songs that I keep in my, or 3 songs that I keep in my playlist that I just want to mention real quick with Michael Schenker Fest. Take Me to the Church,
right,
and The Girl with the Stars in Her Eyes.
Yeah,
those are 2 of the greatest songs released in the last 10 years. I'm just going to throw that out there, and you sing those.
I wrote them.
They're fantastic. So see, I have. Oh yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but they're in my phone. I keep them. See. I got them ready to go. Talk to me about those ones. Since you wrote them, did you write them for yourself? And then Michael said, "Hey, you got some songs? Let me." No.
No. It never works like that with Michael. Michael decides to go into the studio and record an album,
right?
And he sent me these 2 ideas. They were, and what we do is we just have it very raw. And he sends me it through. So there's no production on it as such, because when people overproduce songs for singers, then there's nowhere for the singer to go, you know? So right. So it was just raw. I do the melodies and the lyrics over the top, and then they build round about that as well. And it allows us to say, well, actually, see that thing you thought was the verse, that'd be better as a chorus.
Right.
And Michael's very open to all that, because he's very much a song guy, you know, and so we could just chop and change it, and we went, okay, well, let's take this. So they Take Me to the Church. That worked really well, and I'm glad you picked The Girl with the Stars in Her Eyes. I was listening to a band called Avatarium. They're Swedish, wow. And they do all this kind of poetry. Very female friendly lyrics, and I just and I looked at Jenny Lee Smith and I thought, do you know what? I listened to you sing and you're absolutely beautiful, and what you do is absolutely fantastic. And so I just took what I got from the Avatarium stuff and just put it into a Schenker song.
I see that.
You know, well, because Marcus Jiddle, who's actually her Jenny Lee Smith's husband, plays guitar on this album. You know, he's an old mate of mine, Marcus Jiddle. You know.
Yeah. He's. I see that. I see that in the lineup here. By the way, you've got some great people on this. You've got Greg Smith, Neil Murray, Phil Hilborn. Yeah. Let's see here. Thomas Broman, of course, who's played with the Electric Boys. Patrick Johansson, who's played with Wasp in Pelletier. In Pelletter. I can never say that band's name.
Neither can I. He'll forgive you.
Should have just been called. It should have just been called. I don't know, Jim or something. Anyway, let's look at.
Patrick was the drummer when I was with Malmsteen.
Right.
All the way through. That's how I know him, and he's terrific. You know, and he lives this. And I just said to him, "Can you go in and do this for me?" And he went, "Yeah, okay, send me it." You know, and everybody that I asked, with the exception of 2 people, actually just turned up and went, "Aye, okay." I wanted to do, because there are about 4 or 5 songs left over from my sessions with Richie that we had, and one of them was called "Pagan Love Song." And I really wanted to do it on this album, and I wanted him to play on it, because we recorded it for the Stranger in His Honor album, but it didn't turn out well, and we knew it wasn't going to turn out well. Yeah. But we could have gone back to the original version, but Richie just said no, and Ingrid just said, "Nah, we've worked together for the last 7 years. We don't need to do any more together." And I was like, "I get you, man."
That was love. Let me ask you this. The second disc has you covering Iron Maiden, Whitesnake, the Rolling Stones, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I recognize a lot of those songs from sort of Cleopatra Deadline compilations over the years. Are those versions from those? Pardon me?
Yes.
Okay, so they're not re-recorded. Those are those versions that. So talk to me about in terms of. Now I know with Cleopatra, they hire you and say, okay, we want you to do a Whitesnake cover, but obviously, if you're doing this, you must have some affinity for the band. So what does a band like Whitesnake and Iron Maiden mean to you?
Well, to go back to the original point of your question was, I would get a phone call at the weekend and say we're recording on Friday.
Right.
We're going to do a Nazareth tribute. And will you learn these 3 songs? So I had no choice in any of those.
Right.
And I just said, yeah, okay. And I would turn up and I would bump into Mickey Moody, who was with Whitesnake, or Bernie Marsden, or Bernie Shaw, or Bernie Tormey, whoever.
A lot of Bernies.
If you were called Bernie, you were sure to get the gig, and so we just turned up and we did them. And I mean, what is quite interesting here is that when the record company asked me if they could re-release the album, I had no idea that they owned the rights to these cover songs.
Oh,
right?
wow.
I had no choice or say in what they put in on the second CD. And what's quite funny was when I listened to it, I mean, I don't remember doing Let's Spend the Night Together or Twisting the Night Away or Not Fade Away, because it was such a production line. We just went in. I would arrive at midday, just after lunch, and be home for dinner time. And I would have done 3 songs. I mean, all this stuff was recorded in 2-3 takes, and then you were just sent home in the tube.
Well, listen, I gotta say, I have bought over the years pretty much all those Deadline Cleopatra things. I have half of these songs already in my thing. Now I'm gonna buy this album. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's what I like about them. They're raw and they're basic and they're just in your face, and I think that's what makes them endearing, because there are other artists on there like Steve Overland of FM who's done a bunch. And there's just an emotion to them, and I love it, even though it's a production line or whatever. I like these versions. Like You're Crying in the Rain is just fantastic.
Thank you.
You're Too Hot to Handle is fantastic. I mean, they're all fantastic. Let's be honest. So let me move away from that just for the second. But we spoke just before about UFO, and we talked about your voice with Phil. You've sung those UFO songs for many, many years. Talk to me a little bit about that band and what it is to bring those songs to the stage, because, when Schenker goes out, people want authentic, they want real, and when you're doing it, it is real, it is authentic. So talk to me about that band and what it means to be able to get up night after night over the years and sing these classic songs.
So we're going to go back a little bit to the Cleopatra records that you were talking about. Though, when Michael approached me about being the singer and putting a new band together, Temple of Rock, and he said to me, look, you and I can do good work together. It can't be MSG. There's been too many singers and musicians going through it. Why don't we do something and we'll call it Temple of Rock? And I said, okay, let's do that. He says, you'll need to play some Scorpion songs, because at that time we had Herman and Francis in the band. Yep. And you'll need to learn some UFO songs. Now, going back to what we were talking about earlier, those CDs you're talking about with Steve Overland and Bernie Shaw and these guys, that's where I went to be able to learn the UFO songs for the same reasons I talked about with Phil, the other, earlier on. It was like, because these were guys that were interpreting it their own way, and it gave me a grounding point. Yep. So it was great for me. I mean, I remember, the Lights Out album and Force It and all that stuff. And gonna give all my love for Sherry. Yep. Just blinding stuff, and it was and the melodies and the vocals and the stories and the arrangements. And what was very clever about them, and what was clever about Schenker as well, is that he gets all this stuff down to 3.5 minutes. He doesn't have to have a 7-minute song or a 5-minute song or a 4-minute song. He can get it all in there and get a brilliant guitar solo in as well. So it was a lot of fun for me. I mean, it was a different discipline working with Michael than it was with Richie or Yngwie, because you never quite knew where either of the Richie or Yngwie were going to take it. With Michael, it's kind of in the same way that Maiden and AC/DC do it, and this is the show. It's 90 minutes long. That's how long it's going to last. We start with this song, we finish with that song, it's done. With Richie and with Yngwie, there was a 20-song set list, and maybe we played 12 because it would go off somewhere, and maybe one of them would go off and play a guitar solo for 7 minutes. And let's face it, when you're playing with these great players and great guitar players, the only girls in the audience have been dragged along by their boyfriends who want to be as good as Yngwie or Richie. Right. And they're the guys whose names are selling the ticket. It's always been like that for me.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the Schenker stuff. And I'm just looking at the first Temple of Rock, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. That's the track that you sing on. Just another great song. And I'll give Michael Voss some credit. That song Saturday Night is just fun. It's such a fun song.
I've never heard it.
You never heard Saturday Night?
No.
Oh, they made a video for it and stuff. Anyway, it's I like the Michael Schenker Fest. I thought that was a great concept. I saw a show in Montreal. I thought it was fantastic, but I'd love to see him get back to Temple of Rock. I like that sort of 3-man Scorpions reunion thing. Anyway, let me quickly move over to Alcatraz. The band went through a little upheaval, for the lack of a better word. And you came in. Talk to me about joining that and taking over that slot and taking over that brand name. Well, I mean, you didn't take it over, but being part of that brand name and rebuilding it. Exciting? Are you part of the group? Are you part of this project, or are you just the guy they hired? And I don't mean to say that in a disrespectful way, but talk to me about the involvement with Gary and Jimmy.
Well, what happened was, and I mean, Graham and I have been friends for many, many years. He's stayed at my house. He's broken my staircase. I mean, he's just one of these guys that is fun to be around. And he was touring with Alcatraz up here in the UK, and he came to Scotland. And I got a phone call saying, "Will you take Graham out for a coffee, walk him around, show him Edinburgh?" And I went, "Yeah, of course I will." Can I get a free ticket for the show? And we wandered around, and he was so upset and he was so pissed off. And he really doesn't like this music. And he said to me, "I hate this. I hated it when I did it with Yngwie. I hated it when I did it with Steve Vai, and I'm hating it now." And I said to him, as we were walking around down in the grass market, and I said to him, "You're a legend, man. You're 70-something years old. Go and do what makes you happy." And he said, "I want to go back to the Graham Bonnet Band. I enjoyed that." And I said, "Well, just do that, And he did, and he quit. Now, I was just finishing an album for Frontiers called Long Shadows Dawn. And I was just finishing all that up. The album's called Isle of Wrath. It comes out at October, I think, August sometime, early couple of weeks. And I got a phone call from the Alcatraz guys saying, "Graham's left." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "We've got tour dates lined up. Can you do the tour dates?" So, of course, with COVID coming in, it pushed the tour dates back and out the way. And I said, "Well, listen, rather than, if Graham's not coming back and we're looking at going forward, let's do an album together. Then it's not an Alcatraz cover band. It's not a Graham Bonnet cover band. It's something that if we're going to take this forward, we'll stamp our own mark on it." So that's exactly what we did. And I started work on that album, I think, in the middle of January. You know, started getting songs in from Joe and from Jimmy and stuff. And this was never a career move that I was intending to do. But the new album is absolutely fantastic. You know, it's a great bunch of players. I'd like to say that I'm disappointed that Graham didn't want to do it, but I'm quite happy that Graham didn't want to do it because it allows me the space to do things. You know, and of course, you're always going to get the the people who live with their mums, you know, that are always just going to bitch about things. Oh, no, Graham Bonnet, no, Alcatraz. Well, Graham Bonnet didn't want to be in Alcatraz. So I'm going to treat his legacy with respect. But I'm going to push it forward, you know, and the next thing I'm going to say, I'm not, it's for qualification. It's not for comparison here. You know, but when Bruce joined Maiden, there was a lot of people upset. When Ronnie Dio joined Black Sabbath, there was a lot of people upset. When Gillan left Deep Purple, there was a lot of people upset. You know, you're just going to have to get over it, guys. You know, if you don't, you know, we've done a great album. It's Alcatraz. Come and listen to the album, watch the videos, come and see it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, then I'm sad that you don't. But don't bitch to me about it because I don't care.
You know, and I have to say, I hear fans, because I deal with the rock stuff every day, and I hear fans always go, it's not the same band if it's not the original members. And I'm like, really? You really want John Rusty back in Rush? You don't like what Neil Peart did? Really? You don't like what Bruce Dickinson's doing with Iron Maiden? I mean, you know, there have been great replacement players in life and have made great music, so just get over it.
Mitch, it's a small amount of people. And it's just...
But they're vocal. They're very vocal. That's the problem.
I know, but it's what, 7, 9, 10, 15? We'll sell thousands of this album. You know, and the people who complain and moan, and they always do, they're the same people who complain and moan about everything. You know, and then because they've got nothing else to do. You know, just go out and enjoy it. I have no time for these people. You know, their opinions mean nothing to me at all. You know, you go on websites and you look and they go, you know, really, if you've got my grandmother told me, and this is a lesson for you kids, if you've nothing nice to say, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, absolutely. And trust me, I tweet out and Facebook, as you see, every day on this day and Billboard stuff, and I always get people complaining. You know, I posted the other day, 10 songs from the Billboard charts from 1980, and somebody wrote in and said, that's not the whole chart. How dare you not post the whole thing? What kind of fool are you to post only 10 songs from a 200? And it's just like, it's a fucking snapshot. I'm not going to post the entire. I mean, it's like, stop complaining.
And Mitch, but you see, the thing is, I think if you're young, concerned, and you feel, you know, that if you don't have a new Snapchat picture, or you know, or you think that your opinion matters, you know what? Your opinion doesn't matter. You know, it really doesn't. You know, we've gone out. I don't make records for your opinion. I make records that I want to hear.
Yeah.
You know, I write lyrics that I want to read and hear sung. And if you don't like it, it really matters nothing to me.
I agree. I fully agree.
I'd love to be more magnanimous about it. But, you know, the bottom line is, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Don't listen to it. Don't moan about it. Oh.
And just to bring it back to me for a second here, I feel the exact same way about my Twitter and my Facebook. I post stuff that I like. I like talking about Doogie White. I like talking about FM. I like talking about Thunder. And every so often people go, oh, they're not popular in the States. I don't give a fuck.
Who cares? Who cares? You get two.
I'm posting for me.
Out of the 3 people you mentioned there, you've got 2 of the finest British vocalists.
Yes.
You know,
Danny, well, three of the band. Danny Bowes, Steve Overland, and you are three fast. Danny Bowes is the greatest. Sorry, not to offend you, but Danny Bowes is the greatest rock singer ever to live. I love his voice.
He's glorious, isn't he?
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah. And the fact that these bands didn't succeed in the state. I mean, FM does everything that Def Leppard does. Should have had the same. You know, back to those Cleopatra. Steve Overland does a cover of UFO's "Love to Love."
Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah.
It could have been a single. Anyway, let me...
It's not Phil Mogg. It's not Phil Mogg. You know, I mean, it's that kind of stuff. Steve was the first singer. I loved him for years. And I went down to London, and within 3 days I bumped into him and I couldn't speak because it was like, oh my God, it's Steve Overland.
Yes.
You know? And when he asked me if I would help out with backing vocals for demos for one of their albums 20 years ago, I was beside myself. I'm thinking, Steve Overland's asking me to help out with backing vocals. This is brilliant.
Yes. By the way, what album was that?
Dear God, well, it was the last one before they split up in 1994, 95, maybe.
Let me see here.
Remember.
Let me go have a quick look at, because I'm such a geek with that. It must have been Aphrodisiac. Was that
one after that?
Dead Man's Shoes.
Yeah, Dead Man's Shoes it was. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good album.
Yeah. No.
With Mr. Barnett.
Yeah, with Andy. Yes. Well, I played in a band with Andy for years.
We see Andy is connected to us Canadians because he was the guitarist for Corey Hart. So that's when you hear Sunglasses at Night and all that stuff,
yeah,
that's our friend Andy.
Yeah, but I loved playing with Andy. Andy and I were in a bar band for years and years together, and he's just one of those lovable souls. I mean, I saw him. He had a band called the Barnstormers that was a covers band, right? And we played this guy's 60th birthday party. And 2 years ago, just before lockdown, just before the virus hit, so that'd be the early January 2020, this guy had his 82nd birthday party. And we've been playing every January. We would all get together without rehearsals and just do this guy's birthday party. We'd fly in from wherever we were, you know, Benji and Barnett, who's now living in Sweden, apparently.
Andy's living in Sweden. Really?
He was living in Malta for a while, but he's living in Sweden now.
Oh wow! Well, there you know, hey, the entire population of Hackney. That's anyway. What a great thing. Real quick here, since you mentioned Long Shadows Dawn, Long Shadows Dawn, Isle of Wrath is out August 6th, 2021, and here, fun fact: the first concert I ever saw in my life was Kiss on August 6th, 1979. So I will celebrate my Kiss moment and my first show moment by buying the new Long Shadows Dawn. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay. Well, had it been released, I tried to get them to release it on August the 4th.
That's a good date too.
August the 4th would have been the first and only time I saw Led Zeppelin at Nebworth in 1979, 4th of August.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. Those are two momentous occasions. But real quick on this album, and since I don't want to spend half an hour on this, but is this a band? Is this a project? Is this just Frontiers that says, "Hey, look, Emil Norberg wants to do an album. Come and sing." Like, what is this? Is there going to be a part 2, or is this one and done? Thank you very much.
Well, we're signed for 3 albums.
Nice. Okay, good.
Frontiers and I have been dancing around each other for a while. We could never agree on what we were going to do. You know, they wanted. I'm not into doing it by, music by numbers. You know, I don't want to sit down and go, right, well, initially they asked me and Graham Bonnet if we would do a rainbow style album and they would write all the songs, and I just said, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And Graham went, I'm not doing that either. You know, and so we've been back and forth a few times, and they said, we've got this guy in Emil Norberg from Sweden. Would you like to work with him? And I said, well, I got him to send some songs over, and they were very kind of AOR-y, you know. And I thought, no, I'm not doing that, you know. Let's go deeper and heavier. And he was in total agreement. And so we just wrote a song. We just wrote a whole album together, and it was written during the lockdown, and it touches on the subjects of alcoholism and dementia and loneliness and isolation, and those were all things that were very and what I was doing, you know, when you get time off, you start to reflect, and I'd been reflecting on 3 old girlfriends who I love dearly, and because I've been going through stuff, and I'd found pictures of them, and I was just wondering where they were. So there are 3 songs on there, one for each of them, you know, and it was just about exploring my past and trying to find out where we were going forward, you know, and it was an interesting work for me to do, and we'll see. We've got 2 more albums to deliver. Whether it's a band or whether it's a project, I don't know. What I do know is that I'm doing more press and promo for an 11-year-old album than for a brand new album that's coming out, and that makes me wonder. You know.
Yeah, and
that makes me wonder. I just, you know, if the record company get behind it, we can do shows. If the record company don't get behind it, then we can't.
I'm trying to actually find the album on the Japanese sites to see if there's a bonus track, but it's not even listed.
Yeah,
and it's coming out next week.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. The first video is out, so do go check that out. And of course,
God, they told me what the idea of the video was going to be, and I was so busy, I just let it slide, and I just thought it was so crass. I think the whole video is really crass. It's nothing to do with the song. I hated it, to be honest. I hated it. And if you're going to listen to the Long Shadows Dawn song, just turn the video off.
Well, I'm actually turning it on right now just to quickly have a look, because I see samurai swords and.
No, it's just.
It's. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
No,
let's have a look.
It's nothing to do with the song at all, and it really upset me.
Yeah, I don't want to get into bashing Frontiers, but sometimes I'm there seems to be a disconnect between the music and what's going on, and
I was appalled by it, and honestly haven't promoted the. It's a great song. It was a great idea for a video, and it's just, oh God, it drove me nuts when I saw it. And I watched it twice, and I thought, I'll never watch that again.
Yeah, I'm seeing this here.
Yeah.
60,000 views. It premiered on June 2nd. Yeah, you know, and the other thing that bothers me is they'll get a band like Revolution Saints with Jack Blades and Dean Castronovo, and they'll say, we'll have our guys write the songs, you just do it. And it's like,
that's why I did nothing with them for years.
It's like, you're going to write the songs for Jack Blades? No, you're not. Jack Blades is going to write the song. I mean, the guy who wrote Sister Christian is going to have some lackey in a back office write a tune for him? I don't think so.
The work that they do, that's how they work. And people appreciate it, and people appreciate having their record deals. It wasn't for me, and that's why until Emil and I could actually sit down and say, we're going to make the record we want, then I wasn't going to sign with them. Right. And I understand why people do. I'm disappointed with the promotion. I'm disappointed with the way things are going. And I just hope that that the record buying public take to the album forget what's going on. Just listen to the album. The songs are great, and I shouldn't be saying any of this shit.
Yeah,
But
well,
you know what?
it's too late.
Well, but sometimes you just have to stand up and go, I'm sorry, that's fucking wrong.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when again, I'm going to use the Jack Blade example. When you're telling Jack Blade, I'm going to have my guy write songs for you, you just go, no.
No. Well, that's why I didn't do it. And so we'll wait and see. I mean, the album's great. Emil's fantastic. We've worked really hard on it. If they promote it, they promote it. If they don't promote it, there's nothing I can do.
Well, and this is going to sound terrible, but I do this rock thing every day. We are, what are we today here? We're July, what are we, 29? 28? It comes out on August 6th, and you mentioning it to me was the first time I've heard of it.
There you go.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah, I don't know. And sadly, I'm signed for 3 records with them, and if they treat the next 2 records the same way they've treated this one, then that's hugely disappointing, because I do every album as if it's my first and my last.
Yeah, you give it all your heart, and it's amazing that I hadn't heard of it. It's anyway. But listen, the other album, the As Yet Untitled reissue, is available now, and you've got a bunch of great covers in there. You've got a couple of bonus tracks.
Yeah.
Last question on that: has any of this been remixed, remastered, add a guitar part, or is it just a straight reissue?
It was remastered. Pontus Norgren,
right,
from Hammerfall. He's been a mate of mine for a very, very long time, and he put all this together all those years ago, and he took the tracks and just boosted them a little bit, so it sounds different. It sounds bigger.
Good.
Which is good, but there was nothing added to it. It's as raw and as honest and as live and as mental as it could possibly be.
Well, it sounds great, and I will say it again. Take Me to the Church, the Michael Schenker Fest song with you singing, one of the greatest songs of the last 10 years. I love that song to death. I just love it.
So do I.
It is. Oh, I turned off my phone, but I just love that song. Take me to the church. All right. That's just it's so good.
It's the all right thing that works, really.
Yes, it does.
It does. It's just one of those things that just. And we shot the video for it in St. Petersburg.
Oh wow.
And Michael doesn't like me to talk during songs, or between songs. He just wants to get on with it. It's 90 minutes. Shut up. And I said to the
Hey, I approve.
we were playing and in front of 2,000 people, and I said, brothers and sisters, and I could see Michael going, oh, what's he doing now? And I said, we're shooting a video tonight for Take Me to the Church. You don't know the song, but if you could just go, all right. And they did. And he went, that worked. I was like, okay, thanks very much. So.
And by the way, I gotta say, that's what I like about Michael and UFO. You listen to The Strangers of the Night. There's an 8 CD box set that and you just get the songs.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be disparaging to Kiss, but Kiss just put out a live release, and you get a song and a speech. And you get a song and a speech. And then you get a bass solo, and then you get a drums, and it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, just fucking play your songs. just play the fucking song.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about UFO and Schenker, is that you put on the Bang Your Head thing that you released recently, and you get songs. And it's like, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's what I like.
I know. And it should, but, I think for releases, that's absolutely right. I think when you go and you see a band, I mean, I remember seeing AC/DC. I saw AC/DC 7 times with Bon Scott, right? Nobody said a word. It was just bang, 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 the whole time, right?
And we love it. The whole thing of like, people over here, people on the right, let me hear you. People in the back. It's like, shut the fuck up.
But would a Maiden show, would an Iron Maiden show not be less if Bruce didn't have one of his little rants in between. You
Yes.
know, I mean, you just think this is, because you take what the show is at the time. You don't do it every night, you know, but if you can see what's going on, and you can see that they want something a wee bit more. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I remember being in somewhere in America, and we were playing, and they had, and it was like an amphitheater, and I just got them to do. I said, Michael, hold it, and I got them to do this whole Mexican wave thing going around the whole building, and it went on for about 3 minutes, and it was just one of those moments that won't work on a live recording, but a live show, people will go home and remember that.
They will. Yeah. You know, listen. I'm listening to you, and if you think of Bruce Springsteen or John Bon Jovi when they do their little sort of thoughts before a song, that works. But there are parts where it's too contrived. It has to be real.
Yes.
So when it's real, it's good.
And I always think that. I always like to think that that's what I do every night. It's a train of thought. I don't particularly have anything to introduce a song, other than when you mentioned Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. I wrote that for Ronnie James Dio shortly after Ronnie had died, right? And I do the horns up thing, right? And the whole place does it. And at that moment in time, before we play that song, you know, 1,000 people in the same room are feeling exactly what I'm feeling before that song starts. You know, we're all as one. And that's one of the great things about the rock community. You know, we've talked about the downside with the arseholes that just have got nothing good to say about anybody. You know, do you think he dyes his beard? You know, his tattoos are not real. You know, all this kind of bullshit. You know, at that moment in time, when you say, this is a song I wrote for Ronnie James Dio, horns up, and they all do it.
Yep.
Everybody together is there as one. And that's how the rock community should be always.
All the time. And that's, by the way, one thing that you cannot get on a live stream is that energy.
No.
And, you know, the live streams were a great way to sort of placate us, but it cannot become the norm. I cannot in 5 years from now go, okay, I got to go see Doogie's concert. No, I want to be at the venue.
Yeah. It works for different genres, right? I mean, I love a band called Dawes, Dawes, right?
Right.
And I love them. And I've actually traveled overseas to see them because I was playing with Schenker and I couldn't get to see them here. And I love them. Now they work in that kind of arena because it's that kind of college.
Right.
You know, in the same way that James Taylor will work in that arena.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different genre, but metal and rock music we feed on what the audience
gives. It's a give and take. You need the give and take.
Of course it is.
You know, I watched a couple of live streams. I watched a Gothard live stream and I watched the Thunder live stream.
Right.
And for me they worked because I'm in Canada and I can never see them live.
Yeah.
But I went to the news groups after, whatever, the Facebook groups, and I saw people going, oh, it's not the same, you know, for Thunder fans who had been to a real show.
Yeah.
And I get it, you know, but for me it was like, well, I'm sitting at home and they never come to Montreal, so this is the greatest moment of my life. But anyway, on that, as we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup. Always a pleasure. And folks, buy everything Doogie's done, whether it's Schenkerfest, Alcatraz, As Yet Untitled, the reissue. And don't go on.
Dye my beard.
Yes. Well, of course you do. We all do. Well, I don't. I just shave it. Thank you, sir. Merci.
Merci.
Perfect.
Lovely to see you, man.
Cheers. All right, let me stop the recording.